Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us today. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be joined by championship-winning crew chief Doug Richert, as we'll look back at his historic career and catch up with him to see what he's doing nowadays in just a few moments from right now. Before we bring in Doug, I want to welcome in the man, the myth, the legend himself, David Starr, who joins us. David, you got on the track for the first time in 2021 at Daytona last weekend. Not the results you wanted, but nonetheless, I imagine it was good to be out there.
Man, it was awesome to be on the racetrack, especially climbing in my Whataburger Toyota Supra for the first time. And that was pretty good. It felt good. And we saw that truck race Friday night. That was incredible. And it was exciting. And I was ready to race. And, one of the things about me and road courses, when you start turning it right, I'm a little lost. I can do them pretty well, but you got to get your rhythm down, your braking points and your shifting points. And I was telling Carl Long, my boss, it's like, hey, guys, I'm starting in the rear anyway. There's 3 segments in our race. The first segment, I was just going to back off of everybody and kind of be like a practice session for me. I had an idea of where my braking points were, my shifting points, and I learned a lot just kind of practicing in the back by myself. I learned a lot, and I was really excited to make a couple little adjustments to the race car. And for the second segment to start, I was going to start getting a little racy. And they had a couple of cautions. And coming to the green, I think there was 2 laps left in our segment. I think I was in third. I shifted down to second for a restart, and there was nothing there. It was like I was in neutral, and I shifted back up to third. There was nothing there. I was revving the engine up, but I was in third gear. Went to fourth. I had fourth. Went down to first. There was no first. So we ran 3 or 4 laps with fourth gear, and that don't work real well on road courses because you got to upshift and downshift. But it was pretty disappointing because I was really looking forward to being a part of the race and getting out of there with a decent finish. And you're so excited to get the season started, and so much work goes into it, and to have something like that happens. But hey, that's just, what do you call that, Doug? Racing? It's just racing, So
that's racing.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was a lot of fun, and my teammate Timmy Hill did awesome, and Stephen Likes, some guys did really a great job, and the race was incredible, and it was a fun weekend, but disappointing with our Whataburger Toyota Supra that the transmission broke, but you'll have that. So yeah, looking forward to getting to Miami, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Dominic Oregon of the RacingExperts.com joins us. Dom, I know that we didn't get the result we wanted with Dave, but certainly excited for Ty Gibbs' first start in the Xfinity Series, and he gets that win, delivering it for his grandfather, Joe Gibbs. It was pretty special.
Absolutely. That's the first time since the year 2006 that you had a first-time winner in their first start in the Xfinity Series. You have to go back to Kurt Busch at Texas that year. And that's good company that Ty Gibbs is a part of. Dale Earnhardt, Joe Ruttman, just to name some of the guys that were able to win in their first Xfinity Series start. And to do it for your grandfather's team, I don't think there was any doubt of how good of a driver he was. But, man, just seeing how he worked through the field, led a bunch of laps on Saturday. He's going to be a name, I think, that we're going to see around the sport for a very long time.
David, what did you make of Ty's performance?
Incredible. Kid's got a lot of talent, and, I heard little rumblings, hey, Gibbs cars, Gibbs this, Gibbs that, and, hey, it's the best equipment out there, but let me assure you that kid's got a lot of talent, and just like Dominic was saying, I think you're going to see he'll be a superstar in our industry. Because what he did and how he raced the 22 car was unbelievable. Nothing was given to him. And let me tell you, you have to drive these road courses. It takes a lot of skill and, a lot of patience. And he did it all, man. And he won that race fair and square. I was impressed by him. And remember that name because we're going to be seeing a lot. I assure you that he's going to be a superstar in our sport.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to see you racing with him for a while there in the Xfinity Series. We'll talk about the good weekend it was for Joe Gibbs Racing coming up later on, and look back on Christopher Bell's Cup win coming up in our NASCAR News and Notes segment later on in today's show. But time to bring in Doug Richert, championship-winning crew chief. You know him for his time working alongside Dale Earnhardt, Greg Biffle, Benny Parsons, just to name a few. David, I'll turn it over to you to introduce Doug to the show.
Well, man, hey, just like a kid watching racing on TV and watching Dale Earnhardt and, Neil Bonnett and all the greats. And, I always heard Doug Richert. I've always heard about Doug, and he's somebody you've seen on TV, seen on commercials, read about in magazines, and, when you're as lucky as or blessed to make it to NASCAR, for anybody. And to meet Doug years ago, just a class act, just a obviously legendary guy in our sport. All his accolades, what he's done in the sport, and the different drivers he's taken to victory lane. It's pretty cool. I can't believe he's on our podcast with us, And the cool thing about it is he works for LBM Motorsports. He works for Carl Long. So, not only myself, Carl Long, and everybody at our organizations, we're very, very, the whole team blessed to have a guy like Doug Richert working for us, because I can assure you he brings a wealth of knowledge, and what he's done in the sport is amazing. And I'll say this, he ain't in the Hall of Fame yet, but it's I'm sure it's not too far away. But Doug, man, Doug, what an honor it is, buddy, to have you join us on Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Is pretty cool, man. And thank you for agreeing to do this, and welcome, buddy.
Well, hey, I appreciate being on here, and man, with that introduction right there, it's like, wow. I mean, it made me feel really good, But yes, I started at a young age. I left California when I was 16. I turned 17 driving through Texas, and I was on the way to the East Coast to go racing. So,
how did that start, Doug? I mean, was there somebody in your family? I mean, were you a kid? Did your uncle race? Did dad race? How did Doug Richert? Were you passionate about cars at a young age? Where did you find the interest? How did all that work?
Well, when I was in high school, there was PE, physical education, and there was metal shop, and then there was auto shop, and then there was metal shop aid, and then there was auto shop aid. So naturally, it just sort of flowed easily around the automotive side of it. And to be real honest with you, in my neighborhood where I lived at, a guy named Ken Neighbor, he ran Watsonville, Antioch, and all that out in California. Well, he ran figure eight and all that. Well, of course, I went down there and started hanging around him, and we're looking, just helping out, doing this, doing that. And then finally, a friend of ours, we all went to high school together, and he started dating Lana, which was Lana Osterlin, which was the introduction to Rod Osterlin and the start of that whole team there. And that's really how that whole thing came together. So the other key element in that is Rod had these resorts and things like that out in California. Well, Roland Walotica also ran modifieds when we were in San Jose Speedway. Roland laid carpet for Rod in these developments and things like that. So that's how that acquaintance came. Well, when we all decided to go racing, it was Roland Walotica was running the team, myself, Dave D'Ambrosio. We all started working on this team, putting it together, bought a car. Very first car we bought was back in the day when Lenny Pond was driving. It was number 54 and had Pepsi on the side. That was the very first race car that we bought to start our Osterlin racing adventure. And out there in California, we bought that. Roland was a motor guy, Bob Burham, he also helped us on motors. But we bought a moving van trailer. Roland Walotica and his dad designed the ramp system. So when we showed up on the East Coast, we were the first first ones to bring a transporter that could haul 2 cars. And it was a cable and ramp system, not hydraulics like we have now on a lot of the trucks. But we built it all. We installed it. I remember rolling up there, working the welder, and I was on the floor pushing the pedal for the power side so he could heli arc the nuts into the side of the walls to bolt the cabinets on. And I mean, it was quite a deal. And then to just show up on the East Coast and like, okay,
wow,
racing, right? And here I am.
So Doug, Lenny Pond, man, man, a lot of my old NASCAR books, man, that's a legendary race car driver. And Rod Osterland, that's also a legendary team owner. And did y'all, was Rod, when all y'all came together, did he have a cup team yet, or he was just starting? Y'all started together?
No, we all started it together. It was all, as we were running at Tennessee Speedway, Roland was, we were running a car there on the oval. With Marco and Dee Flores, and Jeff Prescott was driving the car, and Dave and Bob and all these guys. We just all worked on this car on a weekly deal. Well, when they decided, we're going to start a race team, okay, and that's how it started. It was a conversation, and we started putting it together. So we bought pieces. We bought stuff from Roger Penske back in the day when Dave Marcus had run the Cam 2 cars, when they were sponsored by Cam 2. We thought it was really cool, in the class act that Roger Penske is. Well,
Yeah.
when we bought his equipment, it was all chrome. You didn't have to worry about painting because it was chrome. And I remember the chrome jack stands. I was like, yeah, now we're talking.
We're big time now.
Yeah, we're in it now.
Man, Doug, that's pretty cool, man. I just, what a great story, man, being in high school and, doing stuff for Roland, and then meeting Rod, and then, man, I mean, and you were just obviously a mechanic, jack of all trades for that racing team. And, man, did you ever think one day, I don't know what year that was, but did you ever think that you would ever be crew chief for Dale Earnhardt? I mean, that's amazing.
It was all a wild ride like that. I mean, people's asked me a lot, so, well, what did you think? Well, I was 17. How much was it? I mean, how much could I think about it, right? I mean, even, as that whole thing transpired in 79, when we won the Rookie of the Year and everything was going good. And, Jake Elder was the crew chief, and they had a little disagreement or whatever you want to call that, and he decided to leave. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, Doug, you want a crew chief? Okay, sure. Right. And I did, but I couldn't really give you a sense of what it was like, because it's just what we were doing. It wasn't like I've been doing it for 20 years or anything like that. I just kept doing the same thing I've been doing, which, we built the cars, we assembled the cars, we set up the cars, we went to the track, I drove the truck. And when we got there, it was just like, either I'm standing there with a headset on and I'm pushing the button talking to him, or I'm still got the headset on listening to when Jake was there. So it was definitely a team effort. We just continued on, and I just discussed with Dale, what do you think? What do you think we should do different going back? What about the setup? Hey, I'm feeling this. Well, we worked together on it. We didn't have computers. We didn't have simulation to fall back on and say, I think this is more grip or
Right.
anything like that. It was just like, all right, Dale, try it out. Oh yeah, that's better. I need a little more. And that's kind of the way it was.
Man, that's
Well,
amazing.
Doug, as you worked with Dale over the years there and part of that championship winning team in 1980, what was your guys' relationship like off the racetrack?
Well, it was fun. At the time I wasn't married, so I didn't, have a household, the responsibility and things like that. So we loved to water ski. We bought Yamaha 175 dirt bikes, and we would ride those all through the woods. And during the winter, when the water was low at the lake, he had the house on the lake, and we'd drive under the pier and, just stop there right across the pipe, just carefree fun. And then when it was warming up, we'd hop in the boat and we'd go water skiing and we'd go tubing and just whatever, we just kind of hung out and did what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it for the time.
Man, it's what's amazing, Doug, is just the role of a crew chief back in 1980 to a role of a crew chief today. I mean, you were just talking about all these different, crew chief / mechanic, crew chief / truck driver, crew chief / painter. I mean, you did it all back then. It's amazing to hear that. How many people did y'all have on your team?
I'm trying to think. We had probably the kind of the normal group that you send to the racetrack now, right? Those essential people like gears and trannies and mechanics, motor guys, truck driver. We had the spotter. We had all that stuff. But then back at the shop, we had a group of, I'm going to say probably 6 or 7, because when we built our shop there on Old Statesville Road in Charlotte, once we got our feet on the ground, we built that shop. Then we added a motor room and things like that. Well, the building that was there was a really tall, long building, and it had this overhead crane in it with the hoist and lift and stuff. So we actually started building our own chassis from the ground up even then. And
in 1980.
Oh yeah, we were building our own chassis. We even went out a little bit too and actually built chassis for other people. So
that's amazing.
We had our own gear program. Larry Penn was over there doing gears and transmissions. We had Nick Olala from he was a Penske IndyCar guy, and we had hired him. Butch Stevens, we all know him as BSR. He was our parts guy. He ran our parts department. And then Roland ran the office and the motor room, and we had Lou LaRosa in there that headed up the motor program. So, it's when you think about the day, right? When you think about 77, 78, 79, we were doing a lot.
Absolutely, you were.
So let me ask you this, Doug, as we're in episode number 13 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones, David Starr, Dominic Aragon here alongside championship-winning crew chief Doug Richert. We've heard time and time again throughout the years that the role of the crew chief is similar to a head coach and the driver is similar to the quarterback. Is that what your experience has been? Has it been along those same lines there? Is that how you would compare it?
I would, yeah. They, even then and to now even more, because the role is bigger. We have a bigger group of people that you have to manage, let's say. But driver being the quarterback takes the steering wheel, he steps back. Whoops. Max Tolman calling. But he steps back and he goes to throw, and he said, "No, I can't. It's too loose. I've got to be tightened up." Yeah. So me, I'm going, "Okay, guys, let's get over there and let's adjust this. We're going to change this, change that. And then, all right, Dale, let's make another play here. Oh yeah, that's a lot better." But yes, you can relate to that a lot, And then as you go along, my mentality and my temperament, I wasn't, I guess I always wanted to be treated the way I wanted to be treated. Sometimes a role can evolve into, you can become a butthead real easy sometimes. And, I try not to do that. You know, I tried to respect everybody, and I always felt like I could get the most out of somebody jokingly working right alongside of him and joining in with him. I could get the most out of that person than if I would have just dogged him in front of all his, you know, his people that he worked on the team. So I had a different management skill, I guess. You know, I just wasn't that shrewd butthead, you know, type of person. So,
well, Doug, it must have worked. Y'all won the championship. You know what I mean? It's, you know, that's amazing. Who in 1980, when y'all won the championship, and just reading the history books and read a little bit about that year, I want to say, and I guess I asked the question, was it between Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty? Who
no, it was actually down to Cale Yarborough, Benny Parsons, and us.
Wow. Amazing, man. Y'all just had an exceptional year that year.
We did. You know, we showed up, and we were definitely overachieving, probably from a lot of people's expectations. But obviously, when you have a driver that can wheel it, you know, he can make things happen, and that's what it takes. You know, the window or the box was a little bigger back then,
right?
To say, and it was easy just for a guy to just drive twice as hard and do real well. Well, now everybody drives 3 times as hard.
Absolutely.
Right? So then that box kept narrowing in, and it's harder and harder to dominate like we have in the past. And when we were with Greg Biffle, we'd run away with races, you know, and that's just, yeah, it's just narrowed right in. And that's the technology involved nowadays. You know, look at the tools we've got to work with. Absolutely. All the aero pieces, all the aero data, simulation, tire models. You know, you do all your testing and practicing on the computer before you ever get there. And it saves a lot of time.
Yeah, that's amazing. How did you know, looking back on 1980, when did you figure out, I mean, amazing to beat Dale Earnhardt's crew chief and win his first championship. When did you know that you were working with somebody that was really going to be a superstar? When did you see it right away, or, you know, did you know that going into being the crew chief? I mean, when did you figure out, man, this is freaking Dale Earnhardt? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I knew we had something special when he first got in the car, because in 1978 he came in and he ran 5 races with us, and that was so he could keep his eligibility to run for Rookie of the Year in '79.
Right.
So we saw what he was capable of in '78. And, wow. You know, in '78, we were still running with Dave Marcus, and I think Roland Melodica was still driving then. You know, we had a 2-car thing going on. And then when Dale came on board, it's just like, poosh, you know, click. We show up at Riverside and boom, we sit on the pole.
Wow.
It's like, okay, wow, all right, we're on the pole. And it was just a continuous growth, and Dale just got better and better, and we tried to surround him with better cars. And, you know, it's just like this, if you do it this good, then you want to be that good the next time you do it, and then you want to step that up. And it was a continuous growth pattern amongst everyone in the shop.
Absolutely. So you knew you had a wheel man way before that 1980 season started.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, it's just, you know, sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
And you go back and, you know, when you realize what kind of wheel man they really are, just go look at some of the cars that we were driving back then.
Some of the tanks? Yeah, absolutely.
Like when Dale Jr. got that car that we won the championship in that year, and you look at it to what we're dealing with now, you're like, wow, yeah, I guess we did do pretty good in this thing, you know?
Absolutely.
4 of them on the car. I mean,
that's amazing. So when you win the championship in 1980, and 1981 comes around, and y'all moved to Richard Childress together. I mean, how did it go after that? Can you share with us a little bit of the history there, and what happened after y'all won the championship together?
Well, right at the end of the year, we won the championship, and that all went well. At the same time, here, Wrangler's coming on board. So we actually start, 1981 with Wrangler and all that on the car. And it was going pretty good. And then, quite frankly, the next thing that we know is they sold the team.
Wow.
To J.D. Stacy. And that's when he came in and he started, when he bought our team, that's when he started buying up all them teams and running all those different cars. Well, Dale was kind of upset with that on how it all went down. And, we win the championship and then all of a sudden you sell the team, and he wasn't happy. And I get, so it was Dale, myself, Rick Peters, Steve Blackwell. I think that was about it right at that moment. We decided that, Dale says, hey, I'm going to go up here and drive for Richard Childers. You want to go? Sure. And we just all quit.
And that's amazing, man. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you're talking about, when that transition to Richard Childers happened, and man, the whole world saw what happened after Dale Earnhardt joined Richard Childers Racing. You know what I mean? It's really cool to hear how that came to be. You know what I mean? And you were part of that. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting though, and maybe you don't realize this, but when we left Ashland to go to Childers's, right? We were only there for 6 months, right?
That's it.
That was it. So meanwhile, at the end of that year, well, Dale gets the opportunity to go drive for Bud Moore. Well, that didn't involve me, so I left and went to Junior Johnson's.
Wow.
And that's when we kind of did the co-crew chief thing with Mike Hill, Jeff Hammond, and myself up there. But Dale didn't start doing all that until he went back there after Ricky Rudd got done running with him with the U.S. Air and all that sponsorship that he had on the car. I think was it Piedmont? I can't remember. Maybe it was Piedmont Airlines.
Wow.
But then when that ended for Childers and Ricky Rudd, then Dale came back, and that's when he got back on track. I spent 4 years at Junior Johnson's shop with them, doing my thing up there with Daryl and then when we went to a 2-car team there, that's when Neil Bonnett came on board. So I moved over and was Neil Bonnett's crew chief.
Man, that's amazing. Doug, did you, when you had that opportunity to go work for Junior Johnson, was that like you had to pinch yourself because you can't believe that you're fixing to go work for the legendary Junior Johnson? And I'm going to make a statement. Wasn't Junior Johnson kind of like the Hendricks of today in NASCAR? Wasn't that the best of the best there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had quite the support, at the time from GM, and, we had, I think, Buicks at the time.
Wow.
When we started, before we transitioned over into the, what was it? Gosh, now I'm brain dead. I can't even remember the name of the darn car we ran so good with all the time. But, we ended up with the Monte Carlo, in the end there. But when you were there, like, there was no holding back. If it took this to make it the best car, we had it.
So there was you had every tool you needed to make that race car the best it could be and be the fastest it could be. There was no, working off a budget. Maybe we can't afford this or we don't have that. You had all the tools you need to build what you wanted to have so Neil Bonnett could win.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Really, but when it first started, we were all involved with Darrell Waltrip.
Wow.
And when we were there, the one year we won 11 races, and then the next year I think it was either 12 or 13 races we won. And I mean, the whole game, Darrell Waltrip they're great people. We still talk to one another, and and we still go together. I went to them with the Hall of Fame there a couple years ago and hung out with them for the evening. They're just great friends of ours, I feel, and they really keep an eye on my wife Robin and keeping us straight with all that. But that's great family right there, and that's what I take out of a lot of these. You know, everywhere I go, there's a relationship or you have some friendship that you create, and you still go. We always went up there and sat and visited with Flossie.
That's amazing, man.
You know, not too many years ago, we'd go up there and just visit. And one year, Stevie and Daryl came, and we just tried to get people together that was on the team. Now we wanted to make our little gathering. And
I mean, you're hanging out. You're hanging out doing these cool things, you know, y'all going up, everybody's gathering, y'all having dinner or lunch. And, you know, these are the superstars. I mean, all of us that we idolize and buy their shirts and hats and read about, and y'all just hanging out like it's no big deal. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. This gets even better, right? You talk about, just going out and having dinner, all right. So in 1984, started a team with Neil Bonnett. And we're running it was a Grand National race, before the Cup race, right?
Right.
And I go out to change a tire, and here comes LD Ottinger in, and he clips me, and he breaks my left leg and my ankle, and I smack my nose and all this stuff. And what's the scary part was there was a photographer up there that had sequence shots of me getting hit, going over.
Now, was this on pit road during the race?
Yeah, this was before helmets and all the hardware
Wow.
now, but he just clipped me. Like I was going out. It was in the era of when we changed tires with only one lug wrench.
Wow, amazing.
The guy actually goes around the back of the car with the lug wrench, threw me. It would have thrown me the front one, but I didn't quite make it there because I got hit. So I flipped over, and they drug me over out of the way. And then Bob Janelle, is what he was with us. He goes over and changes the tire and all that, and then the stop's over, and it's like, all right, well, I can't get up, right? They had to pick me.
Hey guys, don't forget about me. I'm over here hurt.
I mean, hey, right? But,
wow.
But what I wanted to say was, so here I am. I'm out here. I don't have a wife. I don't have a family or nothing here. So I stay at Junior and Blossie's house.
Really?
So here comes the morning. You always hear about Junior, all the cooking, right? What are they known for? Cookbooks, cooking, all this stuff.
Breakfast.
Well, here I am in the morning. I wheel myself out, and there's Junior on there cooking away, and Flossie making biscuits, and I roll up and I have breakfast.
At Junior Johnson's house.
That's another day.
That's amazing, man.
Another day in paradise.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Tyler. Another day in paradise. That's amazing, man. Wow. What a story. And Doug, how does that work? So, man, Junior Johnson cooks breakfast in the morning, and then what? He cleans up, and Flossie cleans up, then everybody goes to work in the shop. You walk across the street to the shop. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, then so the next thing, what was I able to do? What are we having for lunch?
Oh, man.
No, it was cool. I mean, and I had a great time working with them. I mean, what a group. I mean, we had a great team. We had a lot of great people on that team, and I was just fortunate to be part of it, right?
Absolutely. I want to ask you one more thing, then we'll move on to the Greg Biffle area. But what was Neil Bonnett like, man? He just seems like everything I've read about Neil, seen on television. He was a class act, and obviously your driver Dale Earnhardt and Neil Bonnett were best friends. I mean, I'm sure y'all were all good friends. So can you share with us a little bit about Neil Bonnett?
Well, Neil Bonnett was exactly how you described it. He was a great guy. He was a hard racer, but he was a gentleman. And we could go out and, I mean, we win the race, we have a good time, or we might blow a motor, or we might wreck. And he had to make sure he shook your hand and said, hey, guys, thank you, appreciate it, before he left. That's just the kind of guy he was. He wasn't this hothead guy and all. And it was just a joy working with him. More good people, right? That you meet and along the way.
Amazing,
That's great,
man.
So then you end up working with Greg Biffle, and this is in the heyday of Roush racing, that era that Roush was so dominant that you worked with him in the way that he was rolling. And Greg, one of a kind, too, spent his whole career there with the 16 car. Tell us about working with Greg. What was he like and those great experiences you guys had there at Roush?
Well, the way I actually got connected to, I want to say this side of it. So how I kind of got connected to Biffle is I actually went to Roush's to start a truck team for Kyle Busch. And so we were putting it together, and we went and tested at Lakeland, Florida. We used to go down there and run and just test things. Well, right after that test, Kyle Busch decided, man, I'm going to skip these trucks and Xfinity and stuff. I'm going to go drive Cup cars for Rick Hendrick. All of a sudden, we don't have a driver. Well, guess what? Here comes the guy that hands out his business card to everybody he talked to. And who was it? Carl Edwards. Hey, you're the guy, Carl. So here we meet the guy, another great guy. I'm just lucky, right? Because Carl's a great guy too, right? And he jumps
Carl.
And we show up in Daytona, and I think he said that was his third or fourth race on asphalt.
Wow.
And
third or fourth race ever.
So, if I'm not mistaken, he'll probably call up in a minute and go, no, that wasn't right. But yeah, I mean, very, very little experience on the big track, especially Daytona, right?
Yeah.
So here we start off, and lo and behold, he's another natural talent that we jumped in there and started winning races. So here we start off, we're doing well and all that, and no real issue. But then Jack wanted me to stay. I think it was a weekend off. He asked me to come up to Michigan and hang out with Greg and the team and just observe. I'm just another outsider looking in, And I did that, and we talked a little bit and listened in, and we talked some more. And the next thing I know, Jack says, "Hey, Doug, I'd like you to just move over here and be his crew chief." Okay. Gosh, man, do I have, And I'm like, well, yeah, all right. I mean, and one side of me is like, oh, I hate I'm going to be leaving Carl Edwards, right? And then go over there, and that was a great relationship too. I mean, we did a lot of stuff together. Also, we had a lot of fun times.
What a lot of races.
Yeah, it was 12 over the 3 years, I think it was there.
Unbelievable, man.
One Homestead, 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
a big deal, man.
It's always nice to win the last race of the year, and you get to gloat on it a little bit, and
Absolutely.
look at the trophy. But yeah, that was good times. When we went out, it's such a great feeling. And I know people now that like Denny Hamlin and all these guys go out. Those guys, when they leave the shop, they have a chance to win.
Absolutely.
We did. That's exactly how we felt with where we were, where Roush Racing was, where the Ford product was, the Roush Yates combined engine program that all came together. It was like perfect timing. The aero package was a low downforce package, little blade and all that. And here's Biffle with drive one sideways. It just fell right into our land. Man, when he would take off, there was no catching him, man. He would just drive the wheels off of it. If we didn't hit the wall at least once in practice, we weren't doing it.
He always hit the wall going into the turns, didn't he? He scrubbed that wall, arcing it in, didn't he?
You're exactly right. And if he didn't want to lift, he'd hit it on the exit too. But
that's amazing. We're sitting here listening to you talk, and man, we just love these stories. But the common denominator, Tyler and Dominic, we're hearing Doug speak, and he has all these race car drivers. But the common denominator is Doug's their crew chief. You know, I think Doug underestimates what he brings to the table. And I can assure you, if you don't have a great race car that handles good, you can't hold that throttle down. You know, you can't run wide open. You know, I don't care who you are. So you got to have a good handle in a race car. And that's amazing, Doug, all the victories you have with so many different great race car drivers, legendary race car drivers. I mean, it's amazing what you have accomplished, and I don't know how many years it's been, but you're still relevant in the sport today. You know, you shouldn't. You know, I don't know if you ever have time to reflect on. I don't know if that happens. I mean, you know, if you look in the mirror and say, man, look at all these wins I've had, and look at this, look at that. But I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff going on. Have you ever sat back and just reflected on what you've done and what you've accomplished in this awesome sport we're involved in?
Actually, you know, every now and then we will. And usually it's when we go dig in the tote of pictures, you know, and just David Showbat back in the day, you know, he always was the guy that took pictures, you know, and of the pit stops and maybe the win and all that. And you had a picture, you know. Now everything's digital. It's a little different. Right. It's a little easier to carry, you know, on a thumb drive or something, and you got your whole season on it. But you know, I'll say, and I've enjoyed racing. It's the only thing I've done in my whole life. Absolutely. When I left California in 1977, I've been out here since, and this is the only job I've ever had in racing somehow or another, whether it's truck, Xfinity, Cup, back to truck, back here. I mean, I've worked here long enough where I've actually worked for Darrell like 3 different times. I worked at Darrell at Junior Johnson's. Then when Darrell started his team up at Western Auto, I worked with him there, and then he decided that when I left somewhere, and then I went back over there to crew chief his truck with Bill Sedgwick. So it's like, wow, these people and Dale and no, I've worked with 2 to 3 times, right? And you stay long enough, you're going to circle back around, because like, what do we do all our life? We make laps, right?
Absolutely, we make laps, man.
People a couple different times.
Well, Doug, I think you were telling me just before we got the show started, you said you've worked with about 73, right? 73 different drivers in the Cup Series, across all 3 series, in fact, of NASCAR's touring series.
I think it's something close to that.
That's amazing.
I to that number, but like, I mean, I'm talking like whether it was a 1 race deal or whether I went and I just changed tires for Alan Kowicki at times, and I filled in for a tire changer with Davey Allison, and it was, I mean, every little stepping stone or you know, any kind of connection that I had to a driver, I just counted that all through the years, and it really ramped up.
So let me ask you, Doug, of those 73 drivers you worked with, not necessarily.
Don't ask me for a favorite.
Who was your favorite, Doug?
You know, I can't say I have favorites, but I can say now I've got a lot of great relationships from it. Let's say that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I've had different success, whether it's how someone helped mentor me, who helped groom me into being the person that I am, or a talent that I've learned that had given me. It's just not one favorite thing. It's really the connection. And I've always said I am not the only person on the team. I wasn't the only part of the success, because you know what? If I don't surround myself with good people, I'm no good either. You ever heard of the saying, a computer, garbage in is garbage out?
Absolutely.
No different.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted, we hadn't spoke about him yet, is I want to ask you about Kenny Irwin Jr. and your time you worked with him. Were you his crew chief, Doug?
Yeah, actually, I circled with him a couple times. Right. I went up when Kenny Irwin was driving the Liberty Racing team. He was running trucks. He had Ray Bestis for the sponsor and stuff. He ran the 98 truck. Actually, Gary Showalter at our shop now that runs MBM Motorsports, he's the one that hired me up there to be like a consultant, build shocks, work with Kenny, help set up, and do that with the trucks. For him, we ran that truck deal. But then after that, I went a different way, and I was working for Joe Falk Racing, I think it was, and we had Todd Bodine as a driver, the 91 car, but there was, Mike Wallace, and then Todd Bodine ended up. Well, anyhow, at the end of the season, we had a really good run in Atlanta, and then I was approached by Robert Yates and them to come over and be the crew chief for Kenny Irwin. So,
wow.
Even Kenny, the short period of time, I worked with him twice.
That's amazing,
That's cool.
Man. Unbelievable.
That's cool. Well, last question before we move on to the news and notes and ask David and the rest of that. Doug, what are you up to nowadays? What's a day look like for you right now?
Well, I started, this is going on my third year now with Carl Long Motorsports, or known as MBM Motorsports. And Carl's been, putting a cup car out on the track for almost every race for the last 2 or 3 years, I think it is. And he also runs 3 to 4 Xfinity cars for the past 3 or 4 years too. And I was crew chief, and I came over and was helping. We put a team together real quick for Max Tolman to get him approved and things like that. So we ran some races with Carl at his place. Then after that was over, Joey Gase was a driver, and they paired me up with him to crew chief him for a while. And then I crew chief Chad Fincham for a while. Then I ended up crew chiefing Timmy Hill, and kind of just bounced around different programs. And Austin Hill with Shiggy, combined effort there, worked with him. And it's just one thing led to another. And then my world sort of turned upside down with my family. And my wife got cancer the first time when we found out. So she underwent a major surgery. And that was the same time the pandemic deal hit. And with the low immune systems because of surgery and the chemos and all that went on, they helped decide that, hey, Doug, let's just let you stay back at the shop, and let's not send you to the track, exposed to whatever I might bring home to her. And I was like, that's cool, because I've got to the point in my life where I'm okay with that. So what I've been doing lately is I just work with every team. Don't run the team, okay? Don't in that respect, but I'm involved in all of it. And what I'm trying to do is help create consistency, right? To make sure somebody just doesn't go off one way and do something that's bad. Or if we know that one is doing this, we try to incorporate it to the next car and the next team and the next car and build it all together. So now I'm involved with doing the pull down and stuff, the pull down rig that we send every car across before it goes. I'm involved with every one, and now I can help pull all those thoughts together too, track them, and then of course try to better yourself the next time through. So
yeah, Carl last week described you as his competition director, was the term he gave you. So yeah, that's fantastic.
That sounds pretty technical.
Well, and Doug, you've been around the sport more than 40 years. You've worked with so many great drivers and so many organizations. Is there ever a chance, or maybe the possibility, we would ever see you transition to some sort of broadcast role or some sort of analyst role?
I mean, I would, yes, for sure. I would love to do that. Who knows? Who knows what can happen? I did have a brief opportunity with Speed. I used to do the NASCAR performance show with Chad Knaus and Booty Barker, Larry McReynolds, and myself when we used to do the sets at the racetrack. And then I did have an opportunity to go do the broadcast booth for a couple truck races. And, it's quite different. being up there. And I tell you what hurt me is because all my life, what do? I sit on the pit box and I look at my car, right? That's the only thing in your world. You're looking at your car. Well, you know what? When I'm looking out the window of the broadcast booth and I start looking at the car that I am watching, that doesn't mean it's on TV. It has to be on the car that you're talking about. So it was a little bit different, you know.
That's funny.
You know, would I do it again? Absolutely. Do I think I could do it better? Absolutely.
That's funny. Hey, Doug, before we move on with the show, I want to ask you about one more thing, and I think it's important. Man, your wife Robin and what y'all been through. First of all, I want to say how many years have y'all been married?
We're going on 36 this December.
That's amazing. That's just a beautiful thing, man. And God bless you. We're all going to be praying for you that Robin makes a full recovery. One of the things I've always heard, and I was going to mention this earlier, I've always heard, and I never really ever asked you the question, was Dale Earnhardt really your best man at your wedding?
Yeah, he was.
Wow. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty awesome.
So I got to tell you something in that too.
Okay.
So, of course, he was our best man, and then his tragic death took him away from us.
Absolutely.
So when our 25th anniversary. Oh man, she's gonna kill me when she sees.
Well, don't talk too loud.
So anyhow, we're gonna renew our vows, and she said, "Yeah, I want to renew our vows tonight at church." It was a Wednesday night, and we go to church and get to the end of the service and go, "Oh, all right, Robin and Doug, want to come on up. You know, we're going to renew our vows." So I'm standing up there at the front of the church, and we're sitting there and just about to get ready to start, and I feel a hand on my shoulder. I turn around and there's Dale Jr.
Wow.
Dale Jr. was there to stand in for Dale Sr. as I renewed my vows.
Oh.
And it was just what a feeling that was. And my wife arranged all that, and I didn't know a thing about it. And Kelly was also there, standing in and being with us for that event. And it was like, that was such an honor for me to have Dale Jr. and Kelly take the time out. All the planning that Robin did to get them there, work it with Dale Jr.'s schedule. You know, he was racing full time then, and to work it all out to where we could get it all together. And I always have to tell that story. I'm very thankful for it.
It's a beautiful story, and man, I feel honored that you shared it with us, man. I mean, you think about the Earnhardts and Dale Earnhardt Jr., just the race car driver, but like you were talking earlier, you know, how awesome and what great talent these people are. But it's much more bigger than that. It's all about the relationships. So you will crew chief and y'all will win all the races you won, but the relationship will last a lifetime. The racing will come and go one day for all of us. But like you were saying, the connection, the friendship, and the relationships last forever. And man, what an awesome story! That's amazing to hear that. That's really cool that your wife, that she planned that. You didn't know about it, but it's so beautiful that Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt were there with you in place of their dad. I mean, it's just a cool story, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. It just goes to show you, for people, you know, a lot of us, we don't know Dale Earnhardt Jr. and we didn't know Dale Earnhardt, but you were like family to those people. We just idolize those guys. We're fans of them. We idolize them, but it's cool to know how good a family, how good of people they are to do stuff like that. That has a lot of meaning to it, and it's really cool that you shared that with us. It just goes to show you they're just great, wonderful people. It's things that we might not ever know, and you just share something that was cool with us. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got a lot of great memories, and to be involved with all these people, and still, as tragic as this cancer has been, it's really we've had such an outpour of prayers and concerns and gifts and people bringing food to help us out. I mean, just the same thing like if we were at the racetrack, and I'll throw out when Yates's trucks rolled over in Watkins Glen, right? And they showed up at the racetrack, and well, here comes the whole garage to help them unload everything and get their stuff going and get them what they needed to go compete in a race. Well, that's what you feel like when you create these relationships around the circuit, that we can have a problem and we got people there to help. And that's a great feeling. And I'm honored to be able to receive their friendship like that.
Absolutely. And
that's
just
amazing.
Hearing Doug speak, I would let people know that our racing industry, our industry of NASCAR racing, and hearing Doug talk, it's a family. It's a family.
Yeah.
We're when they drop that green flag, we're all at war and we're beating and banging. But man, when they drop that checker flag, we're one big family. And when people are in need, I mean, I love hearing that. And man, we pray for you and Rob and Doug, and we appreciate you sharing these cool stories with us. Pretty cool.
Well, I've enjoyed the show. It's like, how many shows can you do from the comfort of your own home?
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Oh, we all feel the exact same way from our home offices and home studios to be able to do this. Guys, we got a few more things before we get out of here today. Time for our NASCAR news and notes segment. Let's get started, Dominic, with a look back at the Daytona Road Course, where it was a first-time winner for the second straight week.
Exactly. Christopher Bell didn't lead all the laps, but he led the most important lap, the final one. 5 laps led en route to his first career Cup Series win. That makes back-to-back weeks that we have 2 first-time winners in the Cup Series. The last time we had consecutive first-time winners, you have to go back to 2019, where Justin Haley won at Daytona, and then Alex Bowman followed up the week after Chicagoland. But guys, to go back to the last time you opened the season with 2 winners that were first-time winners, you have to go all the way to 1950. Harold Kite and Tim Flock. So it's been quite a long time since that has happened.
Well, and playoff implications, too. All of a sudden, that's 2 playoff spots that have first-time playoff drivers that have never been there before. David, that was big for both these guys the last 2 weeks.
Oh man, no doubt about it. It's not a surprise, you knew Christopher Bell. It was just a matter of when, you know what I mean? You knew he was going to win some races, and he'll win a lot more this year. I figure he'll win 3 or 4 more races, but man, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it just I don't know about you, Doug, but his talent and what I've seen him do in the race car he's driven over the last 2 or 3 years. I knew when he was coming to Gibbs and getting in the 20 car that he was going to be a championship caliber team together, that nucleus. And we saw that yesterday at Daytona. And then the Xfinity race having Ty Gibbs. Amazing, you know what I mean? But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised about Michael McDowell winning the Daytona 500, because if you look at Front Row Motorsports and you look at what they've done at these super speedways over 2 or 3 years, and I think when David Reagan won his last race, it was at a super speedway with Front Row Motorsports. So none of it's a surprise to me, but we're going to see a lot more from Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs, that's for sure.
Hey, David, when I remember early in the broadcast when you were talking about like Ty Gibbs, he's in Gibbs equipment and all that. You got to remind the people that's talking about that is like, you know what? There was some other Gibbs cars in there, and he still outran them.
Hey, man, absolutely.
You still got to have that nut behind the wheel.
Absolutely. That's why, I don't know if it was Dominic or Tyler, but they were saying, Ty Gibbs. I mean, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in our sport. I mean, what he did, racing with that Penske car and beating the other. I mean, it was impressive. It was impressive. I mean, I was impressed by him. I never seen him race before. I know he's won a lot of ARCA races, but be your first time in an Xfinity race. And I'm just talking, I mean, when it comes to road course racing, I mean, that's talent. And it definitely, we saw something special after he won that race. Nobody gave him nothing. And I don't care how great his race car is and how much money that organization has. Somebody, like Doug was saying, there's got to be a nut, as Doug called us, behind the wheel getting the job done. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you can have an excellent, awesome race car, and you just put a so-so driver in it, and you won't win races. So that we've seen something special this weekend from both drivers.
Oh, yeah, great weekend for Joe Gibbs Racing there. And the race itself was exciting, but, guys, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, what about the pre-race? Jeff Gordon and Clint Bowyer bumping the rental cars, reenacting that Days of Thunder scene. Did you get to see that, David?
Man, I saw it. I was actually it was man, I forget if it was Sunday morning, and I was leaving the racetrack for something. And the way you exit out of the racetrack through the tunnel, the new tunnel that they built in turns 1, I'm coming around there and I look over at the road course, and Doug, there's 2 rent cars out there. I don't know who's out there. And I'm like, man, they just ran into each other. You know, I didn't know if it was like 2 drivers, just kind of like the rookie thing was going on, or just a couple of guys from the Speedway driving around. I didn't know what was going on, but I saw them run into each other, and I stopped. I'm like, I can't believe I just saw a Chevy Impala run into like another Chevy Impala. I don't know what they were, but I was shocked. I saw that on an accident. I had no idea that Clint Bowyer and Jeff Gordon were in the cars. I had no idea, but I sat there for a minute. I'm like, man, I can't believe I just saw that. And then I flew back home to Dallas, Texas, and I watched the race late last night. My wife had taped it for me, and I watched it late last night. And they were showing before the race started, it was Clint Bowyer and Jeff Gordon, and I saw it happen. I saw, man, somebody's in trouble. You know what I mean? I just thought it was employees of the Speedway. But that was pretty awesome. Did you see that, Doug?
Oh, yeah. There's so many times I wanted to do that, jump and do that.
Oh, Dominic, we've seen these networks do these bits and all that stuff. Usually they're pretty bad. That was some of the best TV I've seen in quite some time. I love the pairing of Jeff and Bowyer.
Oh, absolutely. And just seeing them go back and forth and know that, no, they don't have to hire stunt drivers. They show the cameras. It's actually these guys going wheel to wheel, toe to toe in these rental cars, and they're just smashing them up. And I did love how they had Bowyer, and I think he was in a Ford Fusion, and they had Gordon in an Impala. So they were even true to the manufacturers that they most recently raced in the Cup Series.
Hey, that's cool. And I want to bring up something. I want to tell Doug something. Doug, we had Jeff Bodine on our show, I don't know, a month ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, whatever it was. And Jeff shared with us that him and Dale Earnhardt were every time they were on the racetrack, they ran into each other. And I guess Bill France called them to Daytona along with Rick Hendricks and Childress. And they were all going to dinner after their Come to Jesus meeting at the NASCAR office, you know. And so I think Bill France told Earnhardt to ride with Jeff Bodine. So Jeff was telling us a story that he's driving. They're going to dinner, and they're following Bill France, Rick Hendricks, and Richard Childress in one car. And then you got Jeff Bodine and Earnhardt another. And Jeff says, man, next thing you know, Earnhardt hits me in the shoulder hard. And he said, hey, man, what's the deal? He said, run into him. You know what I mean? He was sharing that with us on the podcast here. We thought that was crazy, but that kind of reminded me of after I saw that last night of Jeff Gordon and Bowyer getting after it. You know what I mean? But it's just crazy.
Every driver like that has to have that agitator on the side. And who was it this time but Dale?
Absolutely. Oh, man.
Oh, that's incredible. Rubbing Sun is racing.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Oh, gosh, that's good. What else we got, Dom?
Well, last headline that we're covering, we promised we would give you all an update if we heard anything about Las Vegas Motor Speedway. They are going to allow fans for the March 5th to 7th NASCAR race weekend just in a couple of weeks. I know it had been kind of talked about, well, what's going to happen? Are they going to allow fans? They got to run the race without fans in September, but the governor's office out there in Nevada has approved a limited amount of fans. We're hearing between 20 to 25% of fans will be able to attend the race weekend. So we'll pass more information as we learn it.
Well, David, it is. David, David, the happiest camper about that's got to be our buddy Brendan Gaughan.
Absolutely. Brendan's pretty awesome, man. You know, when you say Las Vegas, you got to go to the South Point, see Brendan. He'll be at the racetrack. But, you know, and Doug will tell you, our sport, it doesn't operate without the people. You got to have the fans. When there's no fans, no engagement with the sponsors, and the sponsors can't come to the race, it's a challenge, you know. And I'm glad to hear that Las Vegas has opened it up. And I just hope from this point on it just gets more relaxed, because we need to be able to bring our sponsors, entertain them in the garage, and we can't race without the fans. I know we have been, but it's important that we get them back, and our sport needs them, and we need them.
Doug, Vegas has become a special place for NASCAR, it seems.
Well, it has, and with all the, you know, it's quite the interaction, entertainment area, you know. So why not go to a place like that, where your families, and you know, if you want to make a trip out of it, it's just like Daytona comes around. You go in July and you go to the beach. Now you take your family on a trip and go do the Las Vegas shows and all the activities that they got there. So it's been great racing.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case that Vegas helped having the race there paved the way for the Raiders coming to town, and the NHL team really just showed that they can be a sports town and support that. So that's great to see. Guys, last segment before we run today, time for our Ask David segment. We ask you to submit questions to us on Facebook, Twitter, and by email. You can follow us at Star Podcast on social media. Email davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And David, we got a couple questions here on Facebook. First one comes from Annie. Annie writes, David, as someone that has spent time listening to you in Vegas, of all places, talking to you, can you tell us the top 3 things youth need to do as far as character on and off the track to go far in racing?
Man, that's a great question. You know, I don't know. I've won a pole in Vegas and won a race there, and I don't know. I just think you got to be honest. You got to be willing to accept change, and I don't know, man. That's a great question. I just you know, you got to be dedicated, and it's not an easy industry, you know, and in today's world of professional auto racing, you got to have great sponsors. And I just think when it comes down to it, it's just, you know, being honest, being yourself, whoever that may be, and doing everything you can for your sponsors to make sure they're getting all the value they can get out of the platform that NASCAR offers to us, you know. But I always tell somebody, and if it's ugly, beautiful, or in between, being honest and being a great guy, a stand-up person, is a lot better than anything else that's out there, you know. And so I don't know. I just always, I'm like Doug was saying, I'm blessed. I've been blessed. This is my 24th year. I've been blessed with a lot of great relationships with team owners, crew members, sponsors, and a lot of them, like we were talking earlier, the racing will come and go one day, and the relationships last a lifetime, you know. And these companies would not, you know, allow me to be like a spokesperson for them on and off the racetrack if they didn't think, you know, I was a stand-up guy. So I try to just be the person I am, and being honest and just being a normal person. Hopefully, you know, that's just the way I've done it. And hopefully I've answered Annie's question. It's a great question, but I race hard. I love what we do. I'm honored I get to work with people like Doug, and get to drive for people like Carl Long. But I think honestly, being passionate, having a lot of passion, a lot of desire, and a lot of heart for what we do is really driven me to stay in the sport this long.
Okay. What about you, Doug? What do you think the top 3 things that young people need to know as far as character on and off the track to go forward in racing?
Well, I think, I look at it as, the way we grow our sport is we have to create the experience for whoever comes to want to enjoy it. From the fans in the stands, we want to create the experience of having a good race. Well, even down in the pit, I love to just out of the blue see some kid or some family standing there that's really interested in something, looking in the garage. I'm like, hey, come on, let's go in the garage. Like, they look at you like, give them that experience, like, boom, all of a sudden they're in the garage. That's what I love. I want to give those people that lasting impression, first experience, like, wow, this guy, I don't even know who he was. He got me in the garage. Well, they're going to want to go back. And I love doing that more than anything now. If there's an opportunity that I can take to talk to somebody, introduce somebody to them that they're just, maybe they wanted somebody's autograph. I'm like, well, come here a minute. Let's just get it. Stop the driver, get him the autograph and say, well, here you go. Is that what you wanted? Yeah. That's what I love doing.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Guys, one more question for you. And I feel like all 4 of us might have a different answer to this question. This is pretty interesting here. This one comes from Jeff on Facebook. Jeff writes, how would you handle such a long delay in a race? Happy to see you behind the wheel this year. Best of luck. So what do you do, David, when you have a rain delay or something, a red flag of some sorts? How do you handle those long delays?
Man, what'd you say, Doug?
Eat.
Eat. There you go. For me, it just gives me a chance to talk to my guys. It's a time you get to ask how their wives, how their kids are doing. Sometimes you're so busy at the racetrack that you go there. When we did practice and we did qualifying, man, it's pretty intense. And, we're all there to do our job. And a lot of times it's just about the race car and how the race car is handling and that kind of stuff. And I feel like during the rain delays, because when you have a rain delay and it takes an hour or 2 to drive the racetrack, and it might rain for an hour or 2, but it just gives me a time to catch up with my guys on my team, find out how their families, how their wives are doing, how their kids are doing. And I really like to spend some time with my competitors. A lot of times us as competitors, you're so busy with our own schedules, sponsor commitments and practicing and all that kind of stuff that we don't really get to learn and talk to other people. So during rain delays, man, I really like to talk to other people, and just to learn more about other people in our industry. So for me, that's, and like Doug said, I like to eat a lot, you know what I mean? So you can eat and do that, but absolutely, man, I love my Whataburger hamburgers, and there's usually 1 or 2 in the hauler, but anyway, during the rain delays is I, first and foremost, I talk to my crew chief and our engineer, talk how the cars, what's going on with the race car. And then I like to visit with a lot of different people. It's pretty cool. How about yourself, Doug?
I love to eat. Actually, a good racetrack enjoyment for me is like having a box of Jelly Bellies up on the box or some type of candy to be munching on, pack of crackers.
You gotta have some ice cream, man.
Yeah, depending on the weather. Might pull out an ice cream or something, and that's what they do. They did it in Days of Thunder,
Absolutely.
And, on pit road and eating ice cream. Say, hey, you want one? No, I'm good, thanks.
Hey, you hear about the crew chief and the driver. How about our media guys? What do you guys do? When there's a rain delay and there's a 2 or 3 hour rain delay. What is going on with Tyler and Dominic? What are you guys doing?
So here's what I do. Okay. I usually think, okay, it's going to take at least an hour to drive the track, and it's usually going to rain, 30 minutes to an hour. So I have enough time then to either watch another sporting event that I can pull up on my computer, or I can watch a movie. And so during the Daytona 500 rain delay this past year, I watched Days of Thunder. I had seen enough of the making of the Days of Thunder that Fox played about 300 times during Daytona 500 week. I'm like, I'd rather just watch Days of Thunder at this point. And that was a great decision. Last year at the Daytona 500 during the weather delay, I watched some XFL football and When Harry Met Sally, one of my favorite romantic comedies. And so that's what I do is I watch other sporting events and I watch movies to pass the rain delay. What do you do, Dom?
Well, especially when we're at the racetrack pre-pandemic, as you all know, media centers always have a bunch of coffee. So I load up on some coffee. And if there's some sort of spread of food, you'll find me there. I'll be the first in line to go grab something. And what you'll see a lot of us do in the media center, because we're all on our computers, we're kind of just waiting for things to pass by. I get a lot of back-end stuff that nobody else knows needs to get done, but I know it needs to get done, like maintenance on the website or just piecing together what you can on your stories or on your audio and sound bites, and just try to minimize your work so you're not there as long as you need to be post-race. So I try to focus on those things, but you betcha, I'm with Doug and Dave there. I'm going to make sure to load up on some food during a rain delay, especially that coffee.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Now, I'm going to be probably the black sheep in this, but when it comes fall, I don't mind a weather delay because I can watch NFL football. And then if the race even gets moved to Monday afternoon, that's fine with me. I'll watch it. And while you guys have to stay at the track another day, I'll watch it. And I still get to watch. I don't get interrupted by football and racing going at the same time.
That's pretty good, Tyler. I like that, man.
Oh, gosh. We have had a lot of fun on this episode of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Doug, we appreciate you joining us. Tell us where people can find you and follow all what's going on with you and MBM Motorsports.
Well, that's a good question. You know, I'm not a big Twitter guy. So I do have a Twitter account, Doug_Richert. That I'm hanging around out there. I don't get on it much. I'm a hobbyist type person, you know, in my off time, but I'm not hard to find. I'm at MBM Motorsports. They have a website, and they got Facebook and all that can be reached. Anybody that needs to get a hold of me can surely get a hold of me somehow or another.
David, what's going on with you as you get ready for Vegas this week, man?
Well, man, I flew back home from Daytona because here in Texas we've had a lot of snow and a lot of our great state of Texas has we've never really experienced in my lifetime the temperatures and the amount of snow that we've had since I've been gone. I've been gone a couple of weeks in Charlotte and Daytona and that, and I didn't plan on coming back to Dallas to home, but after talking to my wife and my kids and with everything going on, I got a couple of crack pipes on my pool, and just I got home yesterday afternoon. And, man, I've been working ever since, trying to get everything fixed, get everything back in order. I like everything nice and clean and neat, you know what I mean? Man, I'm blowing leaves out of my yard, working in my flower beds, working on my pool, cleaning this, cleaning that, fixing my gate. The battery on my gate went bad because it was -3 degrees here for a couple of days, So just trying to fix stuff, get stuff back in order so I could get back to Miami, Florida, and get back to racing this week. But one of the things I want to say, I want to let Doug know how much we appreciate having a guy like Doug Richert to come on our podcast. It means a lot to us, Doug. And, for the fans out there who are watching this, you'll see Doug Richert in the Hall of Fame eventually. I don't know if that's sometime soon, but eventually we'll see that. And, man, I just want to tell you thanks and thank you. And thank you for sharing those awesome stories with us. And I know all of us, Dominic, Tyler, and everybody that's listening are praying for you and your wife that she gets a full recovery from what y'all are going through.
Well, we appreciate it, guys, and we definitely appreciate all the thoughts and prayers and that's coming out from my wife. And sometimes one day all I'm going to have is these stories, and I hope I can continue to tell more because I'm sure there's more. It just has to trigger in the brain of like a topic of, oh yeah, whoa, wait a minute, I got to tell you this. There's more. we haven't gone very far yet. There's still a lot more.
Hey,
No
Doug,
doubt.
have you thought about when's that book? Have we started on that book yet?
Man, you know what? There's been talk about it. I just haven't gathered it all up.
I know somebody that can help you. Dominic is involved, and I think he's the producer. He's the guy. I think Dominic, why don't you share with Doug what's going on with you and what you're doing for Jeff Bodine?
Sure, Jeff and I've known Jeff now about 10 years, and he and I have gotten closer and closer, kind of like an uncle and nephew relationship, if we want to call it that. And been helping him piece together myself and another individual, Bill Norris. I know, Bill, you're listening. We appreciate your help on the project, too. We're helping him piece together his tell-all autobiography. So we've been having a lot of fun putting that together. And actually, before we came on, Doug had agreed to do an interview with us for the book. So we do appreciate that.
That's cool.
That's right. I can tell you all the little tidbits that I know and been around them and the Bodines. You know?
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. We're going to look forward to some of those stories.
I've only worked with 3 Bodines, you know. That's it.
There's a lot that we could go with there. And David, I need to come swim in your pool sometime, man.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
We'll have plenty of Whataburger hamburgers.
That thing.
We'll have plenty of Whataburger hamburgers when you finally make it here, and some lots of sun. And hopefully by then my pool will be back in order and running. But it should be back in order here in a couple of days. Man, I'm excited. I get to race at Homestead again. Get to drive the Whataburger Toyota Super for Carl Long again. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get back to racing this coming weekend.
That's great. That's great. Dominic, what's going on the Racing Experts?
We're continuing to cover the daily news of the sport. I got to give shout outs to our guys every week. Justin Malillo, our managing editor, Jonathan Field, Adam Kuhn, and Nick Lewis. They keep the wheels turning on our operation. So appreciate all you guys so much. And we continue to do our giveaways on Twitter. So just all you got to do is follow us at the Racing, RACN Experts for some NASCAR merchandise. All you got to do is just like, follow, and retweet. And you could win a nice little prize pack with some cool NASCAR memorabilia.
That's great. Guys, we got to run. Appreciate everybody joining us for another episode of Let's Go Racing. Number 13 in the books for the 13 car here on LGR. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you all next week. We'll put the checkered flag out on this episode for David Starr, Dominic Aragon, Doug Richert. I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.